This is the Dr. Paul Show, a woman's personal guide to understanding men. And now, here is Dr. Paul.
Hi, this is Dr. Paul. Welcome to the Dr. Paul Show. Have we got a guest for you last part of the show, last half hour? Her name is Karen Glick. Dr. Glick will be aboard. Have you ever heard of a psychotherapist who happens to also be psychic? It's kind of interesting, a book she wrote, and you're going to talk with her at the bottom of the hour. In the meantime, a lot of things have happened in the last week or two, and I think we had a lot of emails. Oddly enough, emails come in bunches for some reason. Obviously, we don't get to all of them, but we don't do politics and we don't do religion, but I will say this, just because you go to college does not mean you're a snob. I don't know where that came from, but that's what I was told on the email. Also, one politician said he was going to get gasoline for $2.50, but failed to mention that was per half gallon. Well, enough of that. And oh, by the way, we all know of what's going on. Ladies, you have the right to be the people you are without someone second-guessing you or calling you names. It's so unprofessional. We don't do that on this show. You are who you are, and we respect that. In fact, we take the cause of women very seriously. And keep one thing in mind. Now, on average, nationwide, 60% of all university students and college students are female. Uh-oh, I think times are changing. Don't want to alienate those people, do we? Absolutely not. We don't do that here. I have one email that I think you're going to enjoy. I enjoyed it. And this is not a question. This is something the woman says, I have a comment for the Love Doctor. And I looked at this and I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble again. Dr. Paul in trouble? Dr. Tufflove in trouble? Never happened. Well, maybe once in a while. This is good, though. And I definitely am going to comment on it because it covers so many bases and there's so many people out there that have had this experience. All right. A comment for the Love Doctor, she says. Dear Dr. Paul, I have seen most of your YouTube videos. You are so right to be the Dr. Tufflove. I say this because I was divorced finally 3 months ago after over 2 years of hell. Apparently a not pleasant experience. Dr. Paul, we were worth nearly $2 million. Let me read that again. Dr. Paul, we were worth nearly $2 million. By the time it's over, my husband and I split $860,000. That was all that was left after attorney fees and court costs and taxes. Now, keep in mind that it's probably in an attorney's best interest to make certain that the case goes on and on with a great deal of hostility. No, time is money, and that's how attorneys are paid. She continues, please tell the ladies who are fans that it isn't worth it. I feel you are right when you say make an arrangement with your husband to stay together or live apart or let him live with someone, but don't get divorced. Open marriage? Well, apparently she was not willing to pay the price after the fact that she wound up paying. She continues, my whole life has changed and so has his. And here's the bad part. The sex pot he was seeing is gone, too, along with whatever he gave her. Share this on your show. You will be doing a lot of women a favor. I know you will talk about it and let us know how you feel. Thank you. You're right. I will let you know how I feel. Too often, the case happens that for whatever reason, people decide to get divorced. It's a financial nightmare. And I have said this repeatedly, make some arrangement. If one of the spouses happens to be interested in the same sex, make an arrangement. If one of the spouses happens to have somebody on the side, make an arrangement. It's tough on the kids. It's tough on you. Your lifestyle will change dramatically. And as the woman obviously said, it just hasn't been worth it. The stress involved is something else. The emotional trauma that you're going through is just outrageous. And she said that. Think of what it was like to lose half your net asset value. I don't care if you have $50,000 net asset value. And many people don't have that now since the price of homes have gone down dramatically. So let's say that you have some amount. You can look at 60% of it being gone. Somewhere along the line, there happens to be a place for you to make a compromise. You may not like the compromise, but as I always say, be pragmatic. Be a realist, because if you're not realistic, who's going to be realistic for you? Nobody. You have to do what you have to do. And if you look at it objectively, and I know when the emotion is involved, it's difficult to look at something objectively. It just doesn't work well. But it has to. Let this be a lesson to you. And I hate to say that, but let this be a lesson to you. And we've all been there. And I've been there too. And in retrospect, I can tell you that even though ultimately it was the best thing to do, the cost was prohibitive. Okay? Yet, you have a life to live and there's a price to pay. So if the ultimate has to happen, make sure that you do your planning up front. Once you get into the hostility mode, you're going to pay the price. And there are more and more attorneys out there who will be delighted to throw gasoline on that fire. Wow. And you will pay for that gasoline. Trust me, more than you're paying now per gallon. It'll take gallons and gallons. All right, so that one had to be commented on. Make an arrangement. Oftentimes it works better, if you can, than where you are. And if you choose to be with somebody else and live with them, as opposed to being married and living with the one you're with, it may work out better for all concerned. There's still, I understand, that emotional trauma, that anger, that hostility there. How could he do this to me? How could he go with she calls this one a sex pot. How could she go with Little Miss Sex Pot? Who knows? Maybe he's midlife crisis and, he's got to handle it the best way he can. So whatever. You can make an arrangement. You can say, well, look, baby, why don't the three of us get together? If you can live with that. If you can handle it. Whatever. The point is that, oh, by the way, I did get an email on something like that once. And what happened was that the girlfriend, or the girlfriend that was, couldn't handle it. She just couldn't handle it. And the woman said the reason she couldn't handle it is because she was so inexperienced, telling me that the wife was experienced, that I was better than she was. Well, that's kind of an ego trip, right? Try that one for size. We always have a different one, don't we? Love it. So the wife was better than the girlfriend because she had more experience. Hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. Be careful what you ask for, you might get it. The girlfriend, and apparently in that case, left. I have another one. It says, I have advice for the Love Doctor. Now, somebody giving Dr. Paul advice. Maybe you need some advice sometimes. Dr. Paul, you went through a great discussion about sociopaths with a guest. Okay. How about psychopaths? I feel that I have been with one for over a year. He dumped me right before I was going to dump him, only to make himself seem superior. You're right. If he's a psychopath, that's exactly why he did it. He dumped you before you could dump him, and he knew you were going to dump him, and he couldn't handle that. His ego would not allow that to happen. He is a stockbroker with no feeling for other people whatsoever. Well, Dr. Paul was a stockbroker with E.F. Hutton. You know E.F. Hutton? When E.F. Hutton spoke, everybody listened. Well, in the end, when E.F. Hutton pleaded the fifth, nobody listened. And guess what? There are many stockbrokers who I've observed who are nothing more than axe murderers in three-piece suits. But then there's some that are very good. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but we all know what happened on Wall Street. Continuing, I thought he was a narcissist, but then I Googled psychopath, and there he was. Okay. It was like someone had written about him. My advice to you is to have someone on your show and talk about these jerks. Methinks the woman is somewhat upset. Yeah. They are totally without conscience. He lives in his own world and told me what he thought I wanted to hear. You are so right. If I had the information about psychopaths in front of me, I would verify that. Yes, Mike.
Can you clarify with the audience, what is the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath?
How much time do you have?
Why don't we go ahead and give the Cliff Notes,
Notes version
summation?
Well, the sociopath, you'll find more sociopaths in prisons, okay? These are the people who are definitely antisocial. The psychopath is not antisocial. He's socially obsessive and the ultimate user. You're more likely to find, you can find them both in mental institutions, but that psychopath, I guess the most blatant example I could give to you of a psychopath would be Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. That would be the ultimate. You've got someone who has virtually no conscience whatsoever. Everything in the world evolves around him, and she's right on here. I have to finish this because it's really something. Then she said, want to hear something funny? He wants to run for office someday. Now, that would be the typical psychopath. I am the important person here in every respect, and you'll find that many dictators have been psychopaths. That's truly why this guy says, hey, I want to be a politician. I want to run for public office someday. Again, thank you for taking my advice and even for reading this letter. Does that clarify some things for you, Mike?
Yeah.
You think that clarified some things for the audience?
I think so.
I think what you're looking at with a psychopath, Adolf Hitler, is a classic case. Of course, again, he had mental aberrations beyond that, but dictators in general would be psychopaths. Their ultimate reason for being is themselves, period. That's how it works. And I think you're right. I would like to have a person who has some study they have done on psychopaths. If someone out there would like to be a guest on the Dr. Paul Show, get in touch with my producer, and we'll be happy to further that idea and have you on as a guest. Somebody who specializes in that study. I believe I saw something on the internet recently. Someone's written a book, 5 Profiles of a Psychopath. And if I can get into that and find it, we'll have this one person on because they've done the research. We can topically, as Mike says, use Cliff's notes, but we want to go to this point a little further, like we did with a sociopath, and she did a very excellent job. That's on YouTube, by the way. Okay, we're going to a break right now. We'll be up and coming with our guest right after the following messages. This is Dr. Paul, and you're on the Dr. Paul Show.
And now, back to the Dr. Paul Show.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Paul. While we are waiting for our guest, Karen Glick, to arrive, that is via phone, we will continue with what we were just discussing, and that was the psychopath and what possibilities they have. We talked about dictators. Papa Doc, Baby Doc, Duvalier, and Haiti, classic case. A dictator can go in and kill people en masse. They're psychopaths through and through and have no qualms whatsoever. Not that a sociopath wouldn't have, but the sociopath is oftentimes the ultimate con artist. Okay, you may find, might look at maybe a Bernie Madoff type, and I'm not making any type of diagnosis. I'm giving you a character type, someone who is setting up a pyramid scheme. They're working with the people that they are aware of, people within their own religious organizations, within their own club organizations. There's one out there that did a veterans organization, classic sociopath, and just cheated them totally, scammed them out. But the psychopath, wow. And again, either one of them could wind up in a prison or in a mental institution. The difference there is somewhat changeable. The sociopath probably would be more inclined to be in the prison. The psychopath, though, he can be a mass murderer, a serial killer, and have no qualms whatsoever about what he's done or she has done. It goes both ways, believe me. Many times they have mental aberrations, and we can go into this in depth, but there's a difference. They may cross over. Some people would disagree with that, but I think we'll get somebody on who has really studied psychopathic behavior and kind of compare that with sociopathic behavior. But those are primarily the differences. I'm thinking of a dictator right now who's taken out many of his own people. No qualms about that. That's the collateral damage. Now, there are some times we have to practice psychopathic behavior if we're in a war situation, a combat situation, and we kill people, and we see the people we've killed or people who are dead, and we just have a total callousness toward it and walk on. That's a specific case. That is not a case where we're looking at combat situations, specific case, as opposed to being a psychopath who is a dictator. Yeah, Mike.
Can I throw one more term into the pot here?
Yes.
What about psychotic?
Well, psychotic behavior is an aberration. A psychotic behavior can be a mix of many behaviors, and we call it, psychotic encompasses a lot of different.
Is it kind of like a catch-all?
Yeah, exactly. People say, well, this person who's bipolar, and bipolar itself is a catch-all. It's manic depressive situation. And you say, well, psychotic behavior is this. Well, yeah, it can be. Or psychotic behavior is this. And a psychopath can exhibit psychotic behavior because they're psychotic. And that's what we're saying. The classic would be a serial killer. Okay, there's a good one if you watch FBI Profilers. There is a television show, and I don't recall the name.
Criminal Minds.
Exactly.
One of my favorite shows.
Criminal Minds, and you'll hear them say, well, this person is a psychopath, or he is exhibiting a psychotic behavior, or this person's a sociopath. And you can see on there the differences. They will definitely have a different profile. We say, and oftentimes people say, oh, we don't profile. Yes, you do. We all profile. We're made that way. We are born to profile others for our own protection. If you walk into a situation where you're doing intelligence work and you're going to look around a little bit because you have to know who you may find to be an enemy, don't prejudge, but profile accurately. Your life may depend on it. Same thing anywhere. If you go into a bar and you see people that are just maybe look like they may be exercising some behavior that you're not really comfortable with, get out, leave, go. It's the way it works. And if you fail to do that, you may wind up dead. And that's no fun. The party's over then, isn't it? All right, we've gone through some of those, and I've got to read this one to you because this one is one I think you're going to really love. It's one that came to us, and I hope we can find it. Here it is. Ladies, are you ready? She has a great email here. I have a question for the Love Doctor. First question. One was advice for the Love Doctor. That was observation. And this one is a question for the Love Doctor. Dear Dr. Paul, are you ready? The age-old conflict between men and women about driving. Uh-oh. Why is it that men criticize the way women drive? Oops. Well, at least the last two guys I have gone with have. I am with the second one now, and even though he tells me how to drive, he is not as bad as before. That means the other guy, I guess. Both of them have had tickets, and this one even had an accident. I have had no tickets or accidents. What the, and you know the rest. What the, and you know the rest. I have no idea what she means. Please, Mike, you have any idea what she's talking about?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that word. Not at liberty to discuss that word,
yeah. The FCC has no sense of humor about that one. Please explain to me what's going on. Maybe you can make me feel better. Oh, I'll try. This really bothers me. And I should add this. Love the way you end your shows, champagne and all. Thank you. May your fantasies of today be your realities of tomorrow as well. We'll see if we make you feel better here. Okay. Well, why do men criticize the way women drive? Let's stop and say, why do men criticize women? Now we're getting to the crux of it, aren't we? See, the criticism is just the tip of the iceberg. Why is it that men criticize the way women drive? First of all, you have to look at why men criticize women. Oftentimes, the men who do that feel insecure. They bluster in order to project an image of, I'm macho man, which basically is very, very weak. Every time you see a guy walk in and say, oh yeah, I'm the man, isn't that the man? He's trying to convince himself that he's the man, and by doing so, convince others. So it hasn't anything to do with the way you drive. There's a different reason for it. It has the way to do with how he involves himself with women. Now, you've had two men who are similar, one worse than the other. Both, however, criticize your driving. Now, how does Dr. Paul handle that? Well, I like a chauffeur personally, and if a woman wants to drive, I'll just lay back and, close the eyes and enjoy the ride. Why would I criticize someone who's doing a job I don't want to do anyway? Although I have been racing sports cars, but that's another story. I have no problem with that. And you're right. Oftentimes, men say, well, I'm a better driver than you are, and you look at their tickets and, well, wait a minute, something doesn't wash here. Men tend to be a little more aggressive, but women are aggressive too. I recall a pickup truck that followed me the other day with a huge black pickup truck with a lady in it who rode right on my tail of my car. So I tapped the brakes. She backed off considerably. That works. Thank God she didn't come through the back end of the car. But what's really going on here, and I want to make you feel better about you because it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your driving. It has to do with a man or men who feel insecure. And you may want to check out the kind of people that you're attracting to yourself. If you've already had two like this, my guess would be that he's also, and they both probably also, are not just stopping at criticizing your driving. They're probably criticizing other things. And I believe that's happening because the probability is you would not have sent this to me if this had been the only area of criticism you're receiving. So what can I say? The bottom line is very simple. You are the victim of your selection. What? That's right. You're the victim of the selections you've made. Now, you made them, so you are going to live with them, I guess, but it says here that this really bothers me. Now, if it really bothers you, maybe you want to do something about it. There are people out there that may just love the way you drive and have no issues with women whatsoever. In fact, maybe they rather enjoy them. They have no problem with being their real selves as opposed to, some image of being macho, some image of, I'm the man. If you do that, I've seen in service, guys that brag. I've seen guys that are quiet, and I've seen guys who were in Marines. They don't have, some guys, they don't have a lot to say. Then you find out about them and take a look at their ribbons and see where they've been and what they've done, and you're saying to yourself, wow, guy doesn't have much to say, but when the chips are down, he's the man. You'll find a lot of guys that before they go into combat, and I was Navy, and you see that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. When they get back, they have a whole different attitude. Maybe not. Maybe you better learn from somebody that's been there. So you're learning the hard way in a way. So if you're happy with this guy, hang in there with it. Let him know what I said. Don't tell him how to reach me, but tell him what I said. And you can have him read this letter to him. You can have him watch the video and tell him, hey, look, are you really that unhappy with my driving? Or maybe you're that unhappy with me, or maybe you're unhappy with women in general. He has to answer it someplace, and that's the way that works. Well, all right. It looks as if we have not made contact yet with our guest, but we'll continue working on getting that contact made. Sometimes that happens. It happened about a month ago. So it has nothing to do with Dr. Paul. It has nothing to do with the guest. It has to do with communications. And who knows? Oh, by the way, Mike, did you hear today about some sort of asteroid that's going to come very close to Earth? Now, get ready for this. Near the end of the year, it's going to be so close that it will be between the Earth and the man-made satellites that we have.
Really?
Yeah, maybe the Mayans weren't all wrong.
You're talking about, because I mean the moon is about 249,000 miles away, so you're talking about 100,000 miles, or
apparently, and that was on the news that I heard come the way over.
Is that are they worried about that it might get sucked into the Earth's gravitational pull?
Well, that's the thinking. That happened before. I think the dinosaurs bought it when that happened. Bought the farm, the dinosaur farm, and that was it. So, yeah, I believe that's... if you hear any more about it, I'm sure it'll be on the news tomorrow, it'll be on the internet, but it's something that they say is very possible, and it could impact the Earth, or it may not. It depends on whether it's pulled into the gravitational pull of the Earth. That's right.
How big is the asteroid? Is it...
I didn't go out and measure it, but apparently it's large enough to cause some concern. It doesn't have to be very big to hit with the velocity that it would.
Oh, no. Actually, no.
It could be as big as a couple football fields and a football stadium and do the job.
Yeah, about a quarter of a mile will do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Then you have to apply the E equals MC squared type of equation in order to release all that energy, and you got a real big problem.
I heard the other day that somebody said, well, all the great mathematicians discovered what they discovered before age 25. And I said, excuse me, seems to me there was a gentleman named Albert Einstein that was well beyond 25 and made miraculous mathematical discoveries.
Yeah. He was a little bit far beyond the age of 20.
Yeah.
I mean, he was still stuck in the patent office when he was 25, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, show me the love. Oftentimes, people are smothering, this woman says. This is Elizabeth Bernstein, and this is from the Wall Street Journal. And I agree with her in many areas. Of course, I don't agree with everybody about anything or everything, but in this case, I sort of agree with her. She's had some good stuff, and I like it. She says, does your partner expect you to pick up subtle cues about whether he or she is upset? A partner who isn't great at communicating their feelings directly may hope you'll be quick to notice when they are upset and make things right. This tendency points to an anxious attachment style. Well, I don't know about anxious attachment style, but I can say this. Subtlety is not communicating. You must be direct. Unfortunately, and mostly in the U.S., oddly enough, it is. It doesn't happen in Southeast Asia. It doesn't happen in Europe. Typically in the U.S., there's something called subtlety of communication when women say, well, he just doesn't get it. Did you explain it to him? Or men. It's a two-way street. Did you explain to them what they're supposed to get? I use the classic example of, Joe comes home from work and Mary's there saying, oh, Betty and John are going on a cruise. And Joe, unfortunately for Joe, says, well, that's nice. Uh-oh, bad idea, Joe. And why is that? Because it's a subtlety factor. Instead of going one step beyond and saying, baby, how about if we go on a cruise? She waited for him to respond. Let's see what he says. You know what that's called? Mike, do you know what that's called?
I'm sorry, I was reading about the asteroid.
Passive-aggressive behavior. You're still on the asteroid that's going to hit Earth. Well, that's probably a good thing. Passive-aggressive behavior. Well, I'll just ambush him, give him a gotcha. And this is what it is. So don't do that. That is going to be the basis for problems. If Joe and Betty are going to go on a cruise, guess what? Then Joe's in trouble because he's married to Mary, remember? Got you on that one, didn't I? John and Betty are going on the cruise, and she says, honey, we need to do that too. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And then he's going to have to respond. Now, if he responds negatively, oh, no, I don't want to do that, then he's in trouble. The couch is going to be very lumpy. She'll make sure it's lumpy. But if he says, yeah, baby, let's take a look at some brochures. I've always wanted to do that. Maybe he hasn't always wanted to do that. But maybe one of his buddies said, hey, wow, man, they've got a casino on board, and it's cool. Okay, fine. Then he may want to do it. I don't know. But the point is this. Be direct. Communicate your meaning. Say what you mean and mean what you say, and too often people just don't do that. once in a while, you'll find people that don't respond. This man tells his wife how much he loves her. He likes to hold hands when they walk, cuddle when they watch TV, and hug a lot. His wife has learned to like it, but she had to learn to like it. She was different from him. That is not going to work. And I tell people that repeatedly, and I get the emails all the time. Dr. Paul, you're right, you're right, you're right. I married somebody who was the opposite. We were attracted, and pretty soon it didn't work. People who are not similar don't survive as couples. You have to have that same motivation. This woman was willing to say, okay, I'll learn to like it. Some people just aren't that way. And some people are very much that way. Get the people together that really are the same, because even though, and many times marriage counselors, who I think are kind of guilty of this, they will try to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Well, my dear, you're just going to have to correspond to what he wants. Or, sir, you're going to have to correspond to what she wants. No, it's never going to happen. You may modify behavior. We've said this before, but you're not going to change the person. They are what they are. And if you have to work on it, you don't need to be there in the first place. People say, well, you got to work on a marriage. No, you don't. If it's there already, then you don't have to work on it. If you have to work on it, you're with the wrong person. I know. Sometimes you can't help it. You can't avoid it. You're there because you're there, and you're going to have to live with it. And you may have to make those adjustments at that point in time. But in the meantime, try up front to find someone who shares your feelings, your comforts, your discomforts, someone who is touching, feeling, close, or someone who is not. And there are people out there that are both ways. If you marry someone who is not that much into touching and feeling, you're going to be a very unhappy person, man or woman. You're going to resent them, and it's going to go down the tubes. That's how it works. Hopefully, it goes down the tubes before you have children. Once that happens, then it's a whole different story. We're on the ball right now because we're waiting for a call in from our guest. Hasn't happened yet. We'll be back right after these messages.
And now, back to the Dr. Paul Show.
Hi again, this is Dr. Paul. You're on the Dr. Paul Show. We have to apologize. Our guest has been unable to contact us, and we'll look to have her on as a guest at another time. She's very interesting, and I think you'll enjoy what she has to say. In the meantime, we're going to go back to the types of people who are happy in certain circumstances. Sometimes people are, let's say, self-deprecating. That means people who want to put themselves down, and they want to be with somebody who will put them down. Oddly enough, that happens sometimes with people who are very high-powered people who are successful in business, just incredibly successful financially, and they feel guilty about it. So therefore, they want somebody to criticize them and put them down, and they'll find them. They'll find them. You know, they say in Germany, they have a saying, there's a lid for every pot. So whether you're the lid or the pot, there's somebody's going to find each other. That's how it works. You'll find that happening with women and with men. Doesn't make a sexist difference here. It's only the way they happen to be wired. If they're wired to want to be humiliated, then, and oftentimes, we did a study on this, and I think it's kind of exciting to me. Maybe it isn't to you, but the very CEO or general manager who is criticizing his employees is the same guy who at home is criticized, and he loves it. That's right. He wants to be criticized. He wants to be put down. Same thing with a woman. General manager, she's there, gets home, and she is really criticized, and she loves it. I cannot tell you why. Oftentimes it has to do with guilt. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's right for them. Whatever rings your chimes, I guess that's the way it is. When you have a family that's bonded, and I don't typically get into families, I get into relationships, and typically I let others do the family thing. But you'll find kids start to grow and start being that way. Once they establish that personality trait by the time they're 6 years old, it's pretty much established. That's pretty much where they're going to be for the rest of their lives. You can see if they're industrious, if they're lazy, if they're accusatory, whatever it may be. And these different ways of relating are called attachment styles. And kids will do it. They'll do it with their friends. If you find a weird kid, he's going to have a weird friend. Obviously, they stick together. So the same thing is true in later life. When you have someone who has some unusual attachment needs, they're going to be with somebody who has unusual attachment needs. And they're going to bond because this one is going to just perfectly offset the other. It's just axiomatic. So there you go. Again, I can't make excuses for anybody because I don't. People who are on a downer all the time are not going to be happy unless they're with somebody who is on an upper. And they balance each other. So sometimes there's a balance. Then it may not last. It will last only if there's a real subconscious need for that happening. I know. We all are cut from a different cloth. We try to have similarities as close as we can. And if the closer you are in terms of being the same, I don't care if you have whatever kinks you may enjoy, and we all enjoy kinks in some fashion. What's kinky for one person is totally natural to the other. One never knows. And therefore, we don't make value judgments here or and no moral judgments ever. I had an email from a woman who said, we didn't read this on the air, but she said, Dr. Paul, I know why you don't make moral or value judgments, because those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Oops, she found me out. Right, Mike? He's smiling, yeah. I'd make no excuses for my actions. I'll let others make excuses for me. It works much better that way. Talk to my lawyer. We always allow our thoughts to become us. And whatever we, in various religious beliefs, whatever you sow, you shall reap. Whatever you think about, you'll be. That can be pretty awesome for some people, I can assure you. But if you are motivated in a certain direction for, let's say, sex, you're really into really sex. Well, that shows a motivation that you may also be very interested in other ultimate satisfactions, ultimate pleasures, being very wealthy or being very comfortable. That's an ultimate satisfaction. It goes together. I feel like I'm teaching a class here. It seems like, are you taking notes? We're going to have a quiz next week. Pop quiz. Got that? All right, we're going to, before we have that quiz, we're going to go to a break. This is Dr. Paul. We'll be back after these messages.
And now, back to the Dr. Paul Show.
We were on the subject of your thoughts are you and what you think about. We're talking about people that are driven, be it sex or business or whatever it may be. Maybe they have a project that is a driven person, and oftentimes they do focus, but there's a composite of other things they have an interest in. They're just, we call them type A personalities. I wouldn't know what that means. Well, maybe I would. Anyway, yeah, I know, Mike, it's time type A personality. Who would have guessed? One thing we talked about in terms of relationships and attachments, be careful of people who are acting out. If you're in a relationship and you have a new acquaintance, kind of give it some time to see if they're going to start acting out. Sometimes it's a good thing to check with previous friends. And I'm talking about previous girlfriends or boyfriends, whatever it may be, and see if this person acted out before. People are very clever at hiding who they really are. They're chameleons. Oh, there was a song out about chameleon. Well, there are people out there who are chameleons. You will never know them until you're into a relationship 3 to 5 years. And wow, when you find out, it can be a sudden shock. It can be bipolar. It can be schizophrenia. It can be a variety of things that they hid very well. Sometimes people who are extremely brilliant are hiding the way they feel inside, and they don't get there. They just don't get there. And you'll never know it. When they do get there, you're going to be shocked. It's like suddenly driving and having a blowout on your tire. How did that happen? Where did that come from? And there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but really be analytical. Oftentimes we say, he's okay. I'll overlook that. Don't overlook it. What looks like a speck now will be a boulder later. And remember what I say. It's not the boulders that'll wear you down. It's the grains of sand. That's how it works with sandblasting. And ultimately, you're going to have to discover what you've got and find out from a variety of sources. I recently had a comment to someone we're doing business with, and I did some background checks, and guess what I found out? The person was clean. On the other hand, we had some business experience where we did a background check and found out, oops, bad idea. It's easy today. Just go into that computer and find out about them as much as you can, be they men or women. Don't have a rude awakening. Don't get a bad shock. We've all had them. They're not worth it. They're no fun. And you can find out that you're going to be either financially damaged, physically damaged, personally damaged, emotionally damaged. You don't need to go there. You're a better person than that. I know you're a better person because you're on the Dr. Paul Show listening and intently understanding what's happening, right? And seriously, I will say this. My viewers and my listeners are above. They have the edge. They're cut above because they really involve themselves with this. I've seen so many items on Facebook. We have so many emails, comments from people who say, I really learned something. I really want to respond, and I'm glad that I watched what I watched. I saw the relationship videos. Like this woman here tonight, she said, share with others. I went through a very bad divorce, cost me over $1 million, and these things happen. The other one who said, hey, look, my boyfriend now and the one before thought I was a bad driver. Had nothing to do with her. Had to do all about them. I've enjoyed it. As always, this is Dr. Paul. May your fantasies of today be your realities of tomorrow.